we'll be focused on 4 steps to automate your ERP PHSO process. There's a few people still to join, so what we'll do is we'll wait a short while and then get started. Great, so I can see a few people still joining. So what we'll do is we'll get started anyway. So thanks to everybody for joining the session. My hope for the session is that it will be valuable and interactive for all involved. Today we aim to cover off 4 ways to automate the ERP PHSO process, or inbound processing, or AKA PO flips. So our aim here is to give you some ideas as to how to reduce or potentially completely eliminate common PHSO bottlenecks. We have sort of a greater ambition to make sure that you can scale your order automation, allowing you to basically deal with higher volumes of inbound purchase order capabilities, streamline the PO flip process, and essentially, hopefully, further optimizing your cash flow across the business. So please feel free to leave the questions in the comment section or the chat window or the question panel, whatever works best for yourself. But what we'll do is we'll begin, and I'll allow you to just see the full screen of the slide deck. So we shall now cover off basically ways to reduce your ERP PHSO user workloads, thus essentially ways to automate more, right? So essentially from our perspective, we want to help you in 4 ways. We want to help you essentially process purchase orders instantly. We want you to allow to verify the purchase order content that is compliant with the ERP automatically, and then dealing with any input data into ERP as speedily and accurately as possible, because I know this is clearly a pain area for a lot of people out there, getting basically data into, especially documents, into ERPs, and then essentially focusing on how we can go about sharing that sales order as easily as possible. So what we'll do is we'll dive into each of these 4 steps. The first one clearly being processing the PO instantly. Clearly the first element around this is making sure that it's captured. So as it's a structured file, so what we're talking about today is whether it's a PDF or an XML file, we can essentially process that automatically. Then essentially making sure that the information is received clearly via email or by essentially EDI channels. The reference that I've made today about EDI is that we'll probably focus more on API capability than calls and connections and so on. And then enforcing, as a lot of the customers are today in today's market, is if they don't have a PO, then clearly they don't pay. So it's a no PO, no pay policy, which is clearly quite common across most businesses. And essentially, what we're going to do is to make sure that a lot of your PO details are indeed, your SO details are certainly populated with the correct purchase order details. So the next step is about automating this PO validation process, which is an important step, confirming that all the purchase orders and sales order content match and gets approved essentially within your ERP, and then check on basically predefined conditions. And the more predefined conditions there are, then clearly the automation needs to take that into account. Things like pricing, quantities, etc., need to be essentially measured with the documents coming in, so that we can essentially track that information and essentially metadata within your ERP as well. And then essentially verifying, identifying any errors and notifying ERP users. So whether that's management, whether it's the sales team itself, and actually essentially helping you sort of move the PO validation process further and quicker however you choose to make it. Whether it's complicated, whether it's simple, we can certainly help with that. And then authorizing online corrections to avoid unnecessary revisions. So clearly, this is a painstaking exercise for all those people involved in sales activities. We will know how time-consuming revisions can be and delaying sort of feedback back to customers and so on and so forth. And that can delay the sort of the PO flip process. And then obviously the massive goal is to speed up this PO flip or the SO to sales order process, and essentially reducing the calls that go along with communicating and corresponding with your end customers. Then dealing with input data into your ERP. Clearly, really what we were wanting to focus on here is making sure it can actually execute the correct call functions for your ERP. Now, clearly, there's a raft of different ERPs out there. The example we'll use today is SAP, but there's clearly others we can facilitate with. But really, when it comes down to it, it's all to do with the actual calls that are being put into your ERP that will either make it a success or not. And then sending purchase order data into your ERP. Why? To make sure that this information is essentially generates the sales order, and making sure that these channels are certified to make them as secure as possible. And then essentially, which is very, very common clearly in today's market, is making sure that the credit status allows the sales order to be released. Clearly, that needs to be taken into account, whether that's from a financial system or however you do that. Clearly, from a sort of credit management perspective, that's a very important aspect around essentially account management or cash flow management. So we can certainly build into that. So, and then again, avoiding manual errors. It's not necessarily a case of manually uploading these documents into ERP. This can be now done because of the structured file that gets uploaded. Our technology can essentially push that across into your ERP and automate that whole cycle. And then essentially, clearly, this has become very, very important over the last few years, is making sure that you're fully compliant and that you can deliver a full order trail, hence the metadata, and then also working on preset rules to allow people either authorizing or sending, or however it works in your workflow, your PO to SO workflow. We can help you set rules that are predefined for yourself to make sure that everything is as automated as possible. And then we come down to, from a sales perspective, the exciting part, right? So you've now got to actually deliver the sales order. That clearly has to go through a review, whether that's the sales manager or whether that's just a director of any sort. We can certainly build into that workflow. And then again, verifying the credit limits and exposure you might have as a business in relation to risk is clearly a huge priority right now. And then sending each ERP user notifications automatically, which we'll touch upon during the demonstration, and then essentially submitting the PDF copy of the SO to your sales team and onto clearly the end customer as well. So as you've probably already realized, the session today is focused on sales managers, financial controllers, and even financial directors and leads, and even potentially the other side of the fence, right? So supply managers. So those people you engage with on the other side, let's say on the customer side, we need to make sure that whoever they are, they're aware of the capabilities, the technological capabilities. And why are we doing this? Well, basically managers with remote teams have bottlenecks, right, mounting up today, and they need to deal with them urgently. So the focus is to make sure we allow and prioritize accordingly within a dynamic and fast-paced environment that you already work in, to make sure that this can all be facilitated. So what we're asking is for essentially whoever's involved is to take full ownership for managing and maintaining the sales and potentially the other side, the purchasing function from beginning to end, right? So we're ensuring that all financial controls and policies and potentially procedures are adhered to anytime and anywhere, basically. So With that, sort of the focus is to make sure that you are engaging as much as possible with your customers and being essentially customer centric. So let's take a step further back. So why do you want to reduce the time to perform basically PO flips? So I've listed 4 ideas, yeah, but there could be more. So using a customer-centric mindset means sales and finance teams can focus on profitable customer activities, right? That's sort of number 1, clearly. And then engage in the executive teams. So what does that mean? Clearly, they're here to help you. Why? Because your process or this process helps the cash flow, which is vitally important. And then from the customer side, you deliver value to the end customer. So it's essentially selling, not just selling products, but providing value as well. And then there's another point, essentially, which is worth referencing here, is always be learning, right? So let's find ways to enhance your customers' engagement journey with your own business as their supplier. So for us here at Simtrax, there's clearly 3 main topical areas that come up on many of our customer conversations around this ERP PO process, the ability to leverage SaaS technologies to automate this whole process, and then to be done in real time, right? So these are the common questions around higher volumes for the PO process, around leveraging technologies to help automation, and then to transform documents in real time. These are the 3 key main sort of beneficial areas that a lot of our customers come up against, especially around initiating this workflow for the first time. So as far as common bottlenecks are concerned for the ERP PO to SO bottleneck process, let's say, our joint aim is to surely reduce and hopefully spend time generating to speed up the time of generating sales orders and optimizing the PO flip and achieving a higher sales ratio for your teams by better managing their inbound orders, right? So most sales departments struggle when it comes to manually handling high volumes of inbound orders, right? So corresponding with the customers in a timely manner is going to cause huge amounts of bottlenecks for your organization. So let's also consider the technical flexibility of essentially reconciling both the PO and the SO on the fly with remote workers, right? That's a high priority right now for a lot of sort of sales managers and directors and so on. And then over the last 12 months, this problem is compounded. It has caused a massive impact on cash flows for any type of business across the supply chain and the visibility across even the wider supply chain, right? So lately, I don't need to mention missing sales orders or unfulfilled purchase orders is a big bugbear in the industry, and potentially your department too, right? So you've got customers sending you in orders, but you can't fulfill them because essentially sales orders aren't creating and revisions aren't being done in time, which delays the whole invoice cycle, right? So clearly gap analysis within the sales and supply function is critical to avoid any document interchange issues, which are costing teams time and money. So managing internal flows of these orders across your internal staff, and especially approvals and validations from management, can prove challenging, right? So there's the 3 sort of classic examples to take, to track down physically the signatories within your organization, those people who can sign the sales order off to be sent out, and even just sort of sending emails and replying by emails. That's a huge delay in the process. And then essentially dealing with individuals or several approval cycles, which can keep the process flow working, are clearly massive bottlenecks, potentially, even if you've got an order management system, right? And then challenges of balancing the PO flip turnaround and optimizing your cash flow whilst improving your customer engagement, which is a key in today's in tough economic climate. And then are you missing out on opportunities to improve customer trust and working closer together to create more sustainable supply chains? This is clearly a huge element around sustainability and we need to play our part, right? So have you ever struggled with entering ERP data using new or existing sales staff? Can be hugely costly, right? Two valuable members of staff, you could be doing other more productive activities rather than just doing essentially sales admin. So we would like to share with you a bit more about how Simtrax can help businesses streamline the implementation of such a PO flip solution via a SaaS gateway platform that we've developed. So this type of interoperability between systems and exchanges proves hugely productive and cost-effective when implementing your existing, even on the existing PHSO processes. So, you know, a lot of organizations out there, especially the sales teams or processes, may need to change quite considerably. You know, when you consider, you know, sales teams could be providing the sales or generating the sales orders slowly. This can have a dramatic impact on your cash flow, right? So, you know, as far as scaling your existing PO to SO automation, clearly depends on, you know, the ability to integrate these capabilities. And developing a seamless inbound process relies on adopting the latest technologies, right? So you need technology at fingertips for your sales team to make it as easy as possible for them, with the aim of hopefully eliminating the order backlogs and optimizing your PO flip by achieving these high sales order turnover ratios that your team or your sales managers expect these days, right? So enhancing your existing enhancing an existing procurement system with a straightforward inbound order processing is clearly almost a throwaway item right now. But really, when you come down to when you're trying to define these things with your management, and you know you've got a position where it's impacting your cash flow, and quite often people react too late to this. So either the sales might be drying up or the sales might be exploding, and either or are just as dramatic as each other, right? So you've got to make sure that in the positive side, where you've got lots of orders, you can process them and cope with them, and you know get the business visibility up, right? So executives can actually make the right decisions at the right time. So you know, I personally, you know, would recommend a TED talk. I'll leave it in the notes or the follow-up to the session. With the lead actor, and the talk basically outlined making a difference between somebody who aims to get attention versus somebody who aims to be essentially to be more productive by paying attention to their skills. So what do I mean by that? So essentially taking into account you as a supplier want to get the attention of your customer. However, you know, allowing your customer to pay attention to you would be wildly more successful. And so basically, you know, this boils down to clearly improving communication plus transparency is a key. But in essence, what we want to move from is essentially the challenge, right? The challenge of, you know, the customers, allowing customers to pay attention to you, not basically being not stagnating, but consistently focusing on low value communication, right? We don't just want to be sort of order clerks, as it were. We want to be in a position where we're adding value. So we're not just working on essentially ways to get attention from our customers and dealing with the vortex, right, of getting communications or getting POs out of customers, and dealing with the communication, which means, you know, making the revisions within your PO to SO cycle. So that for me was a game changer. I would definitely recommend just viewing it. It's only like 15 minutes long, but there's clearly a lot of studies behind it. I forget the name of the author, but the book's called Flow, and I definitely recommend reading that. So what it's designed to do is to basically make sure that you and everybody around you is paying attention rather than getting attention, which I just can't stress enough. So what does that mean? That has meant that we can basically eliminate manual data entry by avoiding emails and essentially making sure that the admin is just dealt with. Essentially making sure that the internal approvals are dealt with automatically and the routing of the purchase orders are dealt with. So essentially making sure that the sales orders aren't forcing you into a bit of a spin, a tailspin. And then essentially dealing with the difficulty of payment procedures and introducing an intelligent PO flip process whilst maintaining customer engagement levels, right? So managing, basically allowing also from a management perspective, managing your cash flow a lot better. And then the final step is basically to make sure that you integrate into your existing ERP or order management system to help and not waste the time of both your sales team and your customer supply team, basically, which is obviously very critical in today's day and age. So for myself, I'm here. I help businesses securely automate data and digital document process workflows. And my role here at Simtrax is to make sure that I'm helping business transform and finding ways to find the right solution that fits all of their needs. And then basically making it providing the right insights and reasons to promote this internally to your teams, whether it be teams as like a proof of concept, whether it be sort of scaling out to a division, or whether if it works successfully, making sure that it's enterprise ready, right? Making sure that not just your sales team, but potentially wider sales team within your divisions or corporations globally can make best use of this, right? Because as you well know, a lot of businesses in the UK at least are focusing on shared services, so whether it's the finance team or whatever. And I think the next shared service could be some form of sales administration, which is clearly ripe for some automation right now. So here at Simtrax, what we clearly an international organization. So for us, we have a development team and support team across the globe. And I'm proud, and one of the main reasons why I joined Simtrax is that the customer loyalty is huge, right? We average 12 years across no matter what industry or whatever, what area, region of the world. That shows how successful and how embedded we are and how innovative we are within our customers. And then Simtrax offers a solution that can easily handle any ERP or BPM or CRM document workflow. And how can we do that? Because we address this through these specific needs by customizing our off-the-shelf software, whether that be on-premise, cloud, or a hybrid SaaS-based architecture, which we'll cover off today, and then integrate seamlessly into your existing process, as I mentioned, no matter what industry you're in. So let's drill down into the PHSO bottlenecks. So there's clearly a secret step here, and as you've probably worked out already, it's making sure that step 2 is covered in the seamless automation of routing of your purchase orders that you receive to the right person to review and monitor and then potentially sign off the purchase order. It's clearly the largest bottleneck. So with people working remotely, that's essentially compounded. It's got even worse. So dealing with that is clearly of the utmost importance. And we're noticing this where a lot of organizations need to get purchase orders signed off. So for us, we've got clearly a need or a focus to increase cash flow. And how do we do that? We'll make sure that the PO to SO validation process is as tight as possible, right? So let's walk through how this would work in your existing PO routing. So, but obviously, please, recognize the enhancements outlined in this simple illustration. Please also recognize that there's a need to process inbound POs. Don't need to be considered as part of a location. So any one of these individuals can be wherever they need to be, whether that's in an office or working remotely. And then remember, this workflow can be as extended or as complicated as you need to. So what I'd like to essentially draw your attention to as part of this is making sure that your portal, or the way that your customers send in purchase orders, make sure that that can be as processed and as automated as possible. And then clearly, as part of essentially step one, is to make sure that your sales managers or whoever it may be are monitoring the inbound purchase orders, which we'll go through in a short while. And as part of this solution, the customer can do the same, right? So, when you get to essentially step two, which is making sure that the sales orders are created in an intelligent way. Basically, what that means is, we're recognizing what needs to be signed off by sales directors or seniors or management within your organization before you put it into essentially your ERP, right? So all of a sudden, before you can automatically distribute the sales order, a few steps have happened beforehand. So this isn't just a case of saying, right, we're going to automate the whole thing and it's just going to be dealt with seamlessly, right? So we're saying, yes, there has to be some manual steps involved, and we need to make sure that no documents are lost, that sales managers are involved, and where necessary, sales directors are also involved as well. But as you can see from the cogs here, Compleo Gateway can make sure that this process is as streamlined as possible without making it 100% automated, right? Which is essentially what EDIs propose, right? So this, for us, is the schema view. So on the right-hand side, you can see essentially your view, which consists of an order processing or order integration to ERP, leveraging several document formats such as PDF, XML, or even things like JSON as well. And then on the left-hand side, you can see the API connection, so allowing suppliers to send orders straight to, the customer sending straight orders into the SaaS web application using our Compleo Gateway technologies. And then in the middle, clearly that's the gateway, right? The web application, which is Compleo Gateway. And so you can, so your customers can seamlessly upload structured orders into the PO flip process using Compleo Gateway, and thus removing several bottlenecks in their workplace, right? So all of a sudden they don't need to have this huge team recognizing what POs have been sent out, what sales orders have been confirmed, and then what invoices they receive as part of that. All of a sudden you've got one area where they can both upload their the POs to recognize the status and then see what's coming back, right? But before we sort of jump into a demo, there are two other forms which we use, which we'll explain in the further sessions around web portals and folders, and each have their own specific requirements. However, what I'd like to focus on today is the API method, which shows you the blue lines going from left to right, and then essentially the sales orders coming back. So clearly, the fact that, as you can see in the green sort of arrows, it depicts that this can be done seamlessly and leveraging API connections with your customers' environment. So what we'll do is we'll go through a quick demonstration to show you how we can basically remove these bottlenecks that I've referenced, right? So eliminating manual data entry, seamless PO flip workflows to route the orders, and then make sure that the increased sales ratios are in line with your PO to SO process, and hopefully help you manage your cash flows, and then demonstrate the seamless integration with your ERP into your existing PO flip process. So in this demonstration, what we hope to cover off today is to focus on customers using an API connection, so into the Compleo Gateway SaaS environment. So, however, we need to demonstrate it is in the web portal version, as this version helps us to show you the steps needed, giving step-by-step insight, as opposed to the API version, which just basically processes the stuff in seconds, and it's not clearly illustrated because of what happens, right? So therefore, all customers or you have to do is to receive a PO, a valid PO with the correct information fields, which can be automatically entered into ERP or exchanged with the existing PO flip process. So the customer's view can start from an ERP and then exchange using an API. So this demo shall illustrate what happens when the PO is received and how your ERP performs the important necessary document process workflow steps to generate a sales order. So let's show you how this can essentially practically work. So let's see how the customer uploads their own ERP generated PO. In this case, it's an XML format. So the API, basically the orders will automatically upload into the gateway. So as you can see, it'll select the appropriate workflow. So these manual steps won't be necessary. So as part of the web portal, they need to check the status and thus trust that the PO is basically converting into a sales order. So as you can see here, whoever that might be, the sales or supply manager can monitor the status of their PO. As part of this completion, it's essentially automatically converting into an SO and integrating into your supplier's environment, right, your environment. So let's see how the sales manager who's monitored and signed the sales order receives a notification by email with the right information fields. So this can also include electronic or digital signature capabilities within your SO workflow, which can basically include allow people, both customers, to work remotely, and customers can receive a trusted signed version of both the PO and the SO files attached. And thus, you can see in your view, your ERP, you can retrieve the SO on your ERP. And as you can see, all information fields are populated automatically. And of course, the PDF files can be attached into your ERP, and which means that basically your SOs have been sent out to your customers, proving that it's traceable and auditable information fields present across both systems, basically. So great. So why do customers choose to tackle these document process workflows even? So, essentially it seamlessly integrates within their existing PO and sales order processes, so their sales teams aren't delayed in what they do. Obviously, the focus is clearly to make sure that it's being dealt with as quickly as possible, and then improving inbound PO controls, traceabilities and auditabilities for your finance teams to make sure it's all tracked and verifiable. And then, both security and performances are compatible on both environments, whether that's your customer's environment or whether it's your environment. And then easily add flexible workflows should anything change to the future. So as with EDIs, it creates a huge bottleneck when changes need to be made. It's taken a long while to set up, but as part of this, leveraging APIs, you can deal with that quite quickly. So today's promises, I always like to sort of promise something as part of these sessions to make sure that it's valuable for yourselves. So what we did want to cover off is clearly how your SO and your PO and SO can happen today. How your sales teams can pay attention today to your customers, and how your sales teams can deliver more value to their end customers today, and when SaaS technologies can help you, right? So this can help you today as well. So great. So essentially, two main factors as part of any sort of business case out there is to make sure that you can get a clearer direction on your journey, right? By leaving the land of bottlenecks and automating your PO to SO journey, and then delivering C-level insights, right? So by investing in yourself and your teams, you can deliver greater customer engagement, right? So we've helped businesses explore ways to focus on innovative user cases, such as PO flip process, which we've covered today, which delivers valuable solutions to meet your customers' ever-changing business needs. From leveraging essentially a customer engagement demands from an off-the-shelf software that we can deliver to yourselves very rapidly. So please feel free to ask for more information or indeed schedule a session today. So yes. Right, I know we're very short on time, but for those people still present, please feel free to use the viewing panel or raise your hand to ask a question. Don't worry, I know GoToWebinar can allow this, but you can actually activate a camera as well should you need that. So what we've done is we're just checking the chat window for questions. So thanks everybody for asking the questions and then during the session. And okay, so I hope the colleague has provided a short list of questions that we can obviously answer during the session. So here goes. So do customers see each other's customer POs? Okay. Well, thanks for the question. It's clearly quite a detailed question there, but the only POs they'll see is the ones they've uploaded, because gateway users clearly use user profiles, which I'll certainly explain a bit more about that in the time to come. And then, right, is it possible to distribute documents remotely without causing security issues? Right. Okay. So yes is the answer. So Simtrax or Compleo Gateway uses Microsoft Azure to process all document exchanges. So the highest level of security is employed for each document exchange. And then the final question, if you don't mind, is how do I manage my team if the entire PO flip process is automated? So, well, okay. So all we need for our sales teams is to focus on higher value activities, right? That's sort of number one. So Simtrax does not focus on removing processes. Instead, it hopes to automate the admin-intensive tasks out there. So making your team more productive, not necessarily taking away jobs, as it were. So we have run out of time. So, however, we will certainly reply to all the questions. So feel free to reply. Use my contact details to essentially send me a few more bits of requests or information, however you want. But again, feel free to ask that or schedule a web meeting, whether it's great or small, whatever your question is. I'm here to help. And for myself and the team here at Simtrax, may I ask you to like or subscribe if you're watching this on YouTube, and if you found the session interesting, or indeed, please feel free to, if you're using another platform, please join us for the next session. So may I leave you with some of the innovative solutions we have helped, well, probably over 3,000 customers now deliver with our Compleo hybrid solutions.